day everyone, my name is Lorjan Faith Puliran, taking up Bachelor of Science in Criminology, a third-year college student from Cerizal Memorial State University, main campus, Dapitan City. For today, I'm going to discuss Article 3 and 4 of the Revised Penal Code. Let's start with Article 3, which is the acts and omissions punishable by law are felonies or delitos. What is felonies? Felonies are committed not only by means of deceit or dolo but also by means of fault or culpa. There is a deceit when the act is performed with deliberate intent, and there is fault when the wrongful results from imprudence, negligence, lack of foresight, or lack of skill. Next, we have Article 4, which is the criminal liability which shall be incurred by any person committing a felony or delito, although the wrongful act done be different from that which he intended, or by any person performing an act which would be an offense against persons or property, were it not for the inherent impossibility of its accomplishments or on account of the employment of inadequate or ineffectual means. Okay, so let's proceed to number 2, which is the difference between consummated, frustrated, and attempted felonies. Felony is consummated when all the elements necessary for its execution and accomplishment are present, and it is frustrated when the offender performs all the acts of execution which would produce the felony as a consequence, but which, nevertheless, do not produce it by reason of causes independent of the will of the perpetrator. There is an attempt when the offender commences the commission of a felony directly or overacts, and does not perform all the acts of execution which should produce the felony by reason of some cause or accident other than his own spontaneous desistance. Okay, so let's proceed to the discussion about what is justifying, exempting, mitigating, and aggravating circumstances. First, let's have justifying circumstances. So what is justifying circumstances? Article 2 of the Revised Penal Code are those where the act of a person is said to be in accordance with the law, so that such person is deemed not to have transgressed the law and is free from both civil and criminal liability. Second is the exempting circumstances. These are defenses where the accused committed a crime but it's not criminally liable. There is a crime and there is civil liability but no criminal. Those, if a principal are acquitted, the other principals, accessories, and accomplices are still liable. Third is mitigating circumstances. What is mitigating circumstances? Are factors that help to lessen the guilt of an offender and encourage the judge to be more lenient in their sentencing. Last one is the aggravating circumstances. Circumstances relating to the commission of an act that increases the degree of liability or culpability. Punitive damages are recoverable in a conversion case when the evidence shows legal malice, willfulness, insult, or other aggravating circumstances. To differentiate principals, accomplices, and accessories, an accomplice is responsible for the offense the principal commits. An accessory, on the other hand, is guilty of a separate crime that is almost always a misdemeanor, while a principal is the primary participant in a crime. Okay, so let's proceed to number 5, which is a discussion of the duration of penalties from reclusion perpetua down to arresto minor. Okay, let's have reclusion perpetua, which is imprisonment for at least 30 years, after which the convict becomes eligible for pardon. It also carries with it accessory penalties, namely perpetual special disqualification and etc. Next is reclusion temporal, which is 12 years and 1 day to 20 years. Prison mayor and temporal disqualification is 6 years and 1 day to 12 years. Next is prison correctional suspension and destierro is 6 months and 1 day to 6 years. Arresto mayor is 1 month, 1 day to 6 months. And the last one is arresto menor, which is 1 day to 30 days. The difference between pardon, amnesty, commutation of sentence is Amnesty refers to an act of pardoning an offense. Amnesty can be distinguished from pardon in that amnesty is extended to persons who are subject to persecution but not yet convicted, whereas the pardon is granted to a person who has already been convicted. But the commutation of a sentence is only a substitution of a lesser punishment for a greater punishment. Okay, so let's proceed to the discussion of recidivism, habitual delinquency, and quasi-recidivism, and its effect to the imposition of penalty. Let's have first the recidivism, which is the act of a person repeating an undesirable behavior after they have experienced negative consequences of that behavior. It is also used to refer to the percentage of former prisoners who are rearrested for a similar offense. It refers to a person's relapse into criminal behavior, often after the person receives sanctions or undergoes intervention for a previous crime. Next, we have habitual delinquency, which is a person is considered as a habitual delinquent if, within a period of 10 years from the date of his last release or conviction of the crimes of serious or less physical injuries and found guilty of any aforementioned crimes a third time or more. Pertaining to quasi-recidivism, sufficient its essence being that a person shall commit a felony after having been convicted by final judgment for another crime before beginning the service of such sentence or while serving the same. Next is the difference between complex crime from the Article 48 from compound crime. In a complex crime, although two or more crimes are actually committed, they constitute only one crime in the eyes of the law as well as in the conscience of the offender. There is a compound crime when a single act constitutes two or more grave or less grave felonies. Next and the last one is the discussion of the extension of criminal liability under Article 89. Criminal liability is totally extinguished by the death of the convict. As to the personal penalties and as to the pecuniary penalties, liability therefore is extinguished only when the death of the offender occurs before final judgment. Criminal liability is extinguished partially by conditional pardon, by commutation of the sentence, and for good conduct allowances which the culprit may earn while he is serving his sentence. I think that's all in this video. Thank you and God bless.